And on a prior video, I reviewed the Mangoal 4K Dashcam, which mounts on the center of the vehicle by the mirror area, and that also simplifies installation because it also takes power from there, which eliminates having to run cable along the trim of the car. However, if you upgrade the Mangoal Dashcam with the optional Hardwire Kit, now we get access to special park monitoring features, and they also have an optional GPS antenna upgrade, which I'm gonna show you how I install both the antenna and this Hardwire Kit on this video. I will recommend that you watch my full review video for this so you can see how it works. I'll put a link to that video in the description down below. I'm also gonna place links to both the GPS antenna and the Hardwire Kit in the description down below in case you need to get one. And I'm gonna begin by routing the GPS antenna, starting here and then moving in this direction. Now before I start doing this, I'm gonna disconnect the vehicle's battery for safety. And one of the cables coming from the Mangoal Dashcam is labeled GPS, and there is a tiny little arrow on it, and here is the connector from the GPS antenna, and it also has a tiny little arrow on there. And if I line up both of the arrows, then I'm able to push the connectors in together, making that connection. And the Mangoal Dashcam does include the trim tool that allows me to push the cable into the headliner. However, I can also do it with my fingers. I just kind of gently push that cable in there as I start to move towards the left side of the vehicle. And I'm gonna just continue to head in this direction, tucking that cable into the headliner and then down this A-pillar. And most of the time I'm able to do this just by hand. However, the trim tool does help to kind of insert it, especially if it's a little bit tight, as I head down in this direction. And before I fully insert this into the trim, I do want to show you that the GPS antenna does have double-sided tape in the back. The idea is that I can peel this and then attach it to the dash so it's not rattling or moving around. Now, I actually don't do that, and that's just because I don't like to stick things to my dash, but the instructions do call for this to be peeled so this can be attached and secured. Now, here's a good example where the trim is kind of loose towards the top, so I'm able to do it by hand, but as it gets towards the bottom, it starts to get tighter, so I'm gonna go ahead and use the tool to kind of help to lift on that trim, and then I can kind of tug that cable away into it. So I'm gonna position that cable in here, and I'm gonna use the trim tool to hide and conceal that. A little bit more, that's it. And with the GPS antenna connected, notice that we get an additional option in the settings menu, and that is speed unit, that allows you to switch between kilometers an hour or miles per hour because the dashcam is now recording our speed and our coordinates. If for privacy purposes you prefer not to have your speed or your coordinates recorded, you may want to skip the GPS antenna. Next up is going to be the Hardwire Kit, and this cable comes from the Mangoal Dashcam. You can see that it's labeled power plug. Here is the hardwire cable. So I'm going to line both of these connectors and then push them in until they click together, and then I can begin to tuck that cable into the headliner just like I did with the GPS cable. Then I'm going to keep going in this direction, and then I'm going to reach this area which we call the A-pillar of the vehicle, and then again I can use my fingers to insert the cable on here. Now, I would do it in this way if there was no airbag on the vehicle. However, this vehicle does have an airbag, so putting the cable like this on top of it can be a problem and potentially even a danger. And also working around a live airbag, imagine this thing can potentially deploy at any moment. Even if the vehicle's battery is disconnected, these things are meant to still be able to go off, can potentially be dangerous. So now let me show you how I put this cable behind this airbag. Now, one way will be for me to remove this entire panel. However, instead of removing the panel, I prefer to pull on the weather strip, and that's gonna give me some access, some room to be able to play with this side and to play with this side and try to insert the cable behind the airbag and come out the other side. So here is that cable, and I'm gonna go ahead and lift in here, and I'm trying to insert this into here until it starts to feed into the space. Here we go. And then I can go ahead and continue to feed on it until I can catch it on the other side. And notice how with this side, I'm gonna try to find the cable, and I can kind of feel it already, so I'm gonna keep pushing, and there it is. I got it across behind the airbag successfully. Now I'm gonna go ahead and keep pulling on this. That way I can get it all the way through. Then I can finish hiding this into the headliner. And here's what that looks like from the other side. You can see the airbag is this white portion right here that comes down over here, and you can see that the cable is behind the airbag, not in front of it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and continue to feed that cable behind the airbag, and then I'm also gonna reinsert this weather strip back into its position. And I'm gonna continue to head down, so I'm gonna continue to tuck that cable in and also restoring back that weather trim back into its place. And I have reached the fuse box of the vehicle, which is located right here. And I'm gonna take this panel off so we have better access to it, and also so we can access ground, which is gonna be this bolt right here. And notice that on the hardwire cable, there are 3 wires. The first one is red and is labeled ACC. The second one is yellow and is labeled B+. And the last one is black and is labeled ground. That's the first one that I'm gonna connect. And on the end of ground, you can see that it has this ring terminal. And ground is just a metal portion of the car's body. And you can see on here where somebody drilled and made a hole so they can make a ground connection. However, instead of drilling, I like to find a bolt that I can loosen. And once that bolt is loose enough, then I'll be able to take that ring terminal and slide it underneath, giving me that connection to ground. Now I can tighten this so I have a solid connection. Now I'm gonna find the place to connect the yellow wire and the red wire in that fuse box, and I could use a voltmeter and I could hold the black lead to ground, and then with the red lead I can poke around and try to find that location for both the wires. But this ties up my hands because now I'm using 2 hands. So instead of that, I like to use this probe, and this probe is actually quite easy because this I can clip it to ground, and now I can poke around with a single hand, and it makes finding those connections tremendously easier. And I'm gonna start with this yellow wire, which is labeled B+. This wire needs to have power all the time, even when the vehicle is off. Right now the vehicle is off, and I'm gonna take my probe, and notice that when I touch the fuse in the metal portion, it lights up, indicating me that this particular spot has power when the vehicle is off. Now this already has a fuse, so I'm gonna find an empty spot. Here is an empty spot, and if I touch inside of there, you can see that it does light up green, indicating that this has power even when the vehicle is off. And I also want to show you that on the actual fuse spot, there's 2 contacts, one on this side, and in this case it doesn't light up, and one on the other side, and you can see that one does light up. Now right now it doesn't matter which one actually lights up. As long as it lights up, that means I have power when the vehicle is off. But this will become important later as far as which is the side that has power, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Now the Hardwire Kit includes these guys right here, which are called fuse tabs, and this is what actually connects to the fuse box. And I don't need all 4 of them. I only need the ones that fits my fuse box. And the easy way to know which is the right one is I pull a fuse from the fuse box, and then I can see what size it is. For this particular vehicle, it's gonna be this fuse size, which is gonna be for this fuse tab. And you can see on here that the bottom does look kind of like what the fuse that I pulled, and you can see that there's already a fuse loaded on there. So now I can take the other end, and I'm gonna go ahead and join these 2 guys. Now there is a little plastic covering on it, so if it gets in the way, I'm gonna slide that down. I'm gonna slide this one up, and now I have access to the metal. Then I can put them together until they're fully joined, and once they're joined, I can restore that little plastic covering. And the key that I'm doing right now is making sure that all the metal is covered with the clear plastic. That way there is not going to be a possibility that this touches or shorts out with anything else nearby. And before I insert the fuse tab into the fuse spot that I found, I need to make sure that it is in the correct orientation. Now this side right here, notice this end has nothing. This is what I call the outermost blade. Now this is the side that has to go to power, and if you remember, on this side I found no power. On the other side there is power because you can see that it lights up green. So this side right here has to go to the side that has power. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing lined up in here, and I'm gonna line that up just like a fuse, and then press on it until it fully bottoms out. And now I have successfully made that B+ connection. Next up is gonna be the ACC wire, which in this case is red. And since I already know what fuse tab size I need based on what I did with the yellow one, I'm gonna go ahead and prepare that one in the same way, joining them together with the matching fuse tab that matches the fuse box of my vehicle. And ACC is gonna need power when the vehicle's car key is in the on position or when the vehicle is on. So I'm gonna go ahead and probe to find that. And I have turned the key to the on position and the engine is off. And you can see on here how a lot of the fuses have power now. Now, a lot of these fuses drive critical things like the ABS, which is for the brakes, the airbags, and so on. So I prefer not to tap into those. Now, the fuse cover or the owner's manual tells us which fuses are for which system, and this particular one right here is for the cigarette lighter plug, basically the socket in my vehicle, and this does have power only when the vehicle is on, and this is going to be a good candidate for my red wire. So now I'm going to remove that fuse, and now I can insert my fuse tab. But before I do that, notice that there's a fuse in there already, and that fuse drives the dash cam, and then there is a spot in the bottom, and that spot is for the fuse that I pulled from the vehicle. So I'm gonna go ahead and insert that on there. Now in the yellow wire, because that fuse spot was empty, that's why I did not have to do this step of putting a fuse on here. I only have to do it here because I pulled a fuse from there, and it is important for me to retain it. Again, the bottom one is for the original fuse that was pulled from the vehicle, and the top one is for the dash cam. And before I connect the fuse tab to the fuse box, I'm gonna make sure that the outer blade, which is this guy right here, goes to the side that has power. This side has no power, this side has power, so the fuse tab is gonna be inserted in this orientation. And just like before, I'm lining this up, and then I'm pushing this until it bottoms out. And the Hardwire Kit enables these two park mode options. The very first one is collision detection, and the second one is time-lapse recording. Let's take a look at collision detection. Here the dashcam is gonna wake up if somebody impacts the vehicle while parked, and it's gonna make a record of it, and you are able to select the sensitivity, either low, medium, or high, as far as how sensitive you want the dashcam to be to detecting an impact while under park mode. The second option would be to select time-lapse, and here you get three choices as far as the duration of the time-lapse: 12 hours, 24 hours, or up to 48 hours of time-lapse monitoring for park mode. So hopefully this video helped you understand the benefits of upgrading this guy with the optional Hardwire Kit and the GPS antenna. If you need either one of those two, I'll put links to those in the description down below. And if you guys have any other questions regarding this, please put that in the comments also. And if you found any part of this video helpful, make sure you hit the like button to support the channel, and stay tuned as I have a lot more dashcam videos coming up. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll see you on the next one.